Hello and welcome to the Parenting Podcast. Today's episode explores how kids' behavior gets labeled even before it gets understood. But what if many of these reactions are actually children responding to social stress? Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining us today. We had a very interesting first segment. And now, moving on to the second segment, we are going to be discussing how this emotion transcends into their body in every way, nutrition and otherwise, nervous system. So, Anushka, the first one is for you. When children are stressed socially, how does that stress show up in their bodies long before they are able to explain it in any way?
Right. So we want to look at patterns that they show us in their behavior, which is, are they going from one extreme to the other? So some children will be very avoidant, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, we see aggression. Right. Then we see some children who don't have an appetite, don't want to eat anything. And then the opposite would be binge eating. We have kids who avoid maintaining eye contact. We have kids who internalize anxiety. So they are completely shut down. And sometimes it comes off as lack of interest, being really moody. A lot of parents say that the kids are not respectful enough to respond. And then we also see some cool standoffish behavior. Okay. So those are things that we want to really notice is sometimes it's not just a phase.
Right.
It's when are you seeing this pattern? Is it every day after school? Is it before going to school? A lot of times kids keep calling home. They're sick. My stomach's hurting.
Right.
Any form of discomfort, the first thing they want to do is be in their safe space. There's nothing wrong with that, but when it happens really often, you want to identify what is that trigger, because there's two things. One is there has to be safety and something needs to happen about it. And the second thing is that there also has to be a sense of stress resilience in their building. So being able to tackle that, so I feel like catching a pattern, knowing when it's happening, why it's happening, what time it's happening is really important.
Thank you so much for that because, lately we've been noticing that my daughter's been in the clinic a lot. And I'm at work most of the times when the clinic calls up and she's like, I have a tummy ache, I have a headache.
Yeah.
And so the nurse tells me that, this is nothing. She's absolutely fine. She doesn't have a temperature and she has vague answers like,
Yeah.
where is your head hurting? Right now it's not hurting, but it hurts after every lesson. So, and now that you've said it, I mean, I can, trace it back to the time when I have started working full time, and that's when it has started coming because I'm not the first person uh, that she gets to meet after she's come back from school. So yeah,
Right.
that is thank you. And Leila, from your angle,
Hmm.
uh, how do you associate like, and I'm talking about kids when they are behaving like they abruptly start behaving like you may be having a very well mannered child and then suddenly they start showing signs of behavior which is not right. So what do you think, what is happening and how do you as an educator treat that?
Uh, I have a lot of students that in the beginning of the year they are happy, they're healthy, they're eating, they're on time, they want to come to school, and suddenly sometimes when we have the long break, is that when kids come back, they forget about routine. Their sleeping habit is not the same like before. They need at least a 1 month or a 2 month to come back to their habits. So usually it's not always the case about there's something happening at home. It's usually sometimes because it was a long vacation, something that happened during the break. So that's why when we come back, give some time. At least 1 or 2 months to adjust the routine back during eating time. But if I felt or any teacher felt that after this a long break that this child is having a different or he doesn't want to eat during eating time, he's not in the mood, he wants to go to the nurse, acting out that there's something happening, this is where like I need to go back to parents, not for the child. I need to see that if there's anything that happened recently with him that I need to be aware about it. Then if she opened the conversation with me about something is happening at home, there's where I need to take an action from my side and her side.
Isha, Do you have something to add on it? I'm sure we both have kids in the same age where they are acting out. So, yeah.
No, no, yes, I do have certain things to add on it because I remember whenever we have these long breaks, and I agree with you, is then the entire routine goes out of the window and they're doing whatever they want to do. So, what I have started to do with Arjun is at least 10 to 15 days before I start to put him back into a little bit of routine so that the anxiety which comes in going back to the school, I don't want to get up in the morning, I don't want to go to school, and there's long forms of crying or being angry and acting out, throwing things like that behavior can be a little bit more turned down. And also what we do a lot with him is something which I learned with experience
Yeah.
was to have a lot of talks with him when he gets up in the morning, like how are you feeling, is it okay for you to get up, did you have a good night's sleep, are you feeling energetic? If he's not feeling energetic, validate that emotion, that it's okay. Sometimes we feel energy, sometimes we don't feel energy, sometimes we want to go to office, sometimes you don't want to go to office. So normalizing that has done, because I remember when we switched him from the early learning school to his now primary school, we had a period of at least 15 days where the anxiety had seeped in that I'm getting out of from one safe space to the other space. And he had 15 days when he didn't want to go to school. They were
Wow.
crying and everything. And I was like, why are you doing it? And then I had to trace my steps back. Okay, this has happened before. It's happening again because the environment is changing. It's not something that we did or something is happening around. And the loss of appetite, not eating, sitting in one corner, not talking to friends was because the change of space happened. So this is what we did, like just acknowledging what's happening and making steps one at a time rather than expecting the child to, one day you sleep, the next day, oh, it's school, happy and going back.
Some days validation is all it needs, I guess. Uh, so, Anushka, as a parent, and I can say for most of us parents that we notice food challenges more and faster than we notice behavioral or emotional changes. Is there any particular I don't know whether it sounds right or not, a list of foods that you have of your mind that can help us parents maybe regulate our children's behavior or maybe kind of put them to ease at?
I think that's a great question. I think that the way that the morning starts, and I know everyone's morning is rushed. It's been start very early. You barely have enough time, and everyone is rushing out of the house, right? And that's what we call it. We call it the rushed morning syndrome, and then does bring in anxiety. So what we want to do is we want to do two things. We want to support the brain and we want to support the gut. Because what we feed the brain first thing in the morning is what's going to drive learning, regulation, behavior, memory, and socialization.
Wow.
What you feed the gut is feeding the brain because the gut is one absorbing everything, it's breaking everything down. Without gut function, nothing is going to be digested.
Right.
Second thing is the gut is very important for immunity. Okay. And the third thing is we have 70% of serotonin, which is the happy hormone, being created in the gut. If we're not feeding the gut in the morning, how are we going to feel happy? Right? So, this is what I tell people who work with me is the first thing you want to do is change your morning. Forget every other meal in the day because you're already giving them meals. It's not like you don't have enough to feed your child unless it's like a different situation where they're genuinely struggling with every meal. So, the first thing that I would do in the morning is I would focus on fats and protein. Now, not everyone has the ability to sit and eat eggs, right? We don't have the time. So, kefir is great. You also get kefir yogurt. You can also get the kefir drink, which I love. That is a superfood. It changes the entire microbiome and it heals lactose intolerance, it supports behavior, it supports anxiety, all of that. And then we want to mix that and we want to make a smoothie with blueberry and walnuts, soaked walnuts. So mixing blueberries and walnuts creates a superfood that supports memory and learning. And your walnuts have omega, so it's feeding the brain. Often children are tired through the day, they can't cope up, and they feel really sad, and you see tantrums because there's not enough fat going into the brain. So fats are always welcome, protein is always welcome, and starting your day with something that's gut friendly is going to support your child.
So it's basically blueberry and walnut smoothie to the rescue, yeah?
Yeah, with kefir.
I think we're going to remember that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
With kefir, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And, moving the question to you, do you generally get kids in class who generally like to skip breakfast or they don't have breakfast and you see those mood changes or those behavioral dips as to children in comparison who eat a breakfast and come?
Yeah, usually, to be honest, in the early years, the 3 years olds little bit moody when it comes to food. Some parents they prefer that the child he eats before he goes out to school. Some parents they prefer that they eat their meal during when they're with their friends during breakfast time. So. There's no a certain strategy, depends from a child to a child, and it depends on the routine how he's used to it from home.
Right. So do you think that, kind of setting the tone in the house where everybody eats breakfast or lunch or whatever, setting that tone does help in kind of children regulating their eating behaviors and in turn supporting their emotional behavior as well?
So I think safety is most important.
Mhm.
If you have parents who are working while they're eating, or if you have parents who are not present enough, that's not a safe space for a child to eat at. So it's the child. Some children have their own tables that they sit on. You know, some children have their own routine. So as long as it's a consistent routine that you're creating with your child, even if they are alone, makes a bigger difference than having everyone sitting on the table and it not being a regulated space. So it's all about having a routine, staying consistent, and creating safety. So for some kids, they don't have that safety in the morning because it's too chaotic. So a school space where everything is the same every day gives them safety. So that is something that I would prioritize.
And on that note, Anushka, I do have a question around this, since almost every one of us is a working parent around it. Um, feel that when you have a caregiver in the picture, sometimes it's not necessarily that you have to have all the parents, like both parents sitting, siblings sitting and eating together. Sometimes the dinner table can look a little bit different.
Yeah.
So if the child feels safe enough to sit and eat food with caregivers, does that make a difference, in the position also? But follow-up question on that would be also, how do you um, envision, the role of a parent over a caregiver or a caregiver's role over a parent? And
Okay.
this is something I struggle with every day.
Interesting question. Um, so the first part of the question is I feel like more than the person, it has to be the routine. So whether it's you, a grandparent, a nanny, the father, sibling, whoever, it is the routine of the child. What is the first thing? You wash your hands. Then you get a book or you get a toy or whatever the routine may be. Then you sit down and you may want to have some soup, every day for dinner. Then you have your meal. After your meal, you put your dishes inside, you wash your hands, and then you do an activity. So it is about whoever is there. It doesn't matter because the routine should not change.
Correct.
That is what brings in the safety and not really the person.
Yeah.
Okay. So that. The second part that you asked me, I think a lot of that has to do with mom guilt, right?
Yes.
So with kids, what happens is that they need presence of mind more than anything. When they have presence, they have safety. So even when you're working and there's someone else who's spending time, the dynamic will never be cloned, right? So it'll always be a different dynamic with different people. And children will develop that dynamic as they see fit. So as a mom, it's important to know that what your child connects with you for is always going to be just that. And with other people, it's different. But what they need from you is more presence of mind versus sitting next to them for 6 hours and being distracted. Because they're going to remember those 30 minutes a lot more.
Correct.
Very true. Very true. In that case, uh, because I struggle a lot with my son saying that I have, I like uh, his nannies, and he has a very nice
Yeah.
very sweet relationship with him. And when they are together, he likes to experiment with food, which is extremely rare, you know. And when I am there and he's like, I don't feel like doing it, just make me this. I just want to eat this. So I think that safety also stems from the point of view of the relationship that he has. And very true that, when you're saying that even if you have a 30 minutes with your child, you have to be present enough. So this is something I'm going to take away home today for sure and try to be more present, because even when I am there with him and he's having his dinner, I'm sometimes on phone checking
Yeah.
emails. So it's going to be no, no.
Which is normal. Like, I hope you don't feel that, take that, be too hard on yourself. And with the nanny, when you're saying he's experimenting, right? Different people bring out different things, different layers of us. So it's not speaking about you where he's not feeling experimental enough. It's just that you are his safe space. So with his safe space, he's going to want to try his safe foods that make him feel good. It's a perspective shift, right? And sometimes we're too hard on ourselves and we don't see the other side of the perspective. So I hope that this makes you feel a lot more at ease.
So I kind of went through this in a way because, when we moved to the city, my daughter uh, had just started school and my son was just a newborn. He was around 2 months old. At that time, what happened was that obviously I was spending more time with the newborn. And my daughter was practically being raised by my nanny. Like, so she was the one dressing her up. She was the one, being there on the breakfast table with her and everything. And there was in one of the parent teacher meetings, what had happened was this: her class teacher says, when I asked her to name her favorite family member, I was thinking that she would probably take the name of her little brother, but she took the nanny's name. And how do you feel about that? So, to that, for a moment, I was kind of taken aback because, again, I had just delivered a baby. I was going through my own emotional battle, and I was like, oh, why did she say that? And uh, so, Leila, coming back to you, do you get kids in school who have kind of their own safety net built, which primarily may not be their parents? And if you come across a situation like I did, as an educator, as a teacher, what would you tell the parents? Because I was not given that sort of an assurity that I would have actually needed at that time. So again, mom guilt kind of kicked in even harder.
Yeah. I have a certain cases that some student, like for example, there's a newborn at home where little bit the spotlights goes to that newborn, where the mom is little bit busy and she's not focusing on the child itself. This is where the child himself, when he comes to school, he's tried to do some things that he showed me that, like, oh, I'm not okay today, or he's not feeling well, he doesn't want to eat. um, and when you ask him some question, he would like run away from the direct answer. So this is where like we need to go back to the parent itself, like to let her be aware about that your child, he needs more care, more spotlight. You need to sit with him one-on-one. He needs more care with you. So because like he feels that he's isolated, or let's say that he's not taking enough care from you towards your feelings, towards that you're talking to him. So it should be building more relationship at home more than, to be honest, at school.
That's from a teacher's point of view. If you were to give me a suggestion at that time, and I'm sure a lot of moms are going through something like that, what would you tell me?
So that comes from a very safe child development perspective, because I also work with postpartum mothers. I know that it takes a huge toll because you're trying to keep the second one alive and the first one is barely like functioning. You know, what I feel would be something that's easy to do is to take that, or if that comes up, or even if it's not come up, just involve your older child into whatever your daily routines are. Like if it's laundry, if it's cooking, if it's you're sipping tea by yourself, if you're reading a book they can read by themselves. Because at that age, they're also mimicking, right? So sometimes playing with them may not be on the agenda for the day, but what you can do is involve them in an activity you're doing. Like if it's a workout that you're doing, if you're watching something, because kids like being involved at the end of the day, right? That's all they want, is to be part of something. If you're changing a diaper, you just have your child sitting there and say, oh, this is what I do now. We fold it, now we do this. And they automatically feel that way. So this takes the pressure off of a lot of postpartum mums with new children, because they're also navigating
Yeah.
how to have a second one.
Right. And I think this kind of, with kids, this kind of induces a lot of stress as well.
Yeah.
And maybe somewhere down the line, it does affect their self confidence and,
Yeah.
make them more susceptible to maybe bullying kind of a behavior or shutting them
Yeah.
inside a shell. So, can you just shed some light over, how such kind of emotional stress lead them to various kinds of, behaviors which can affect their nutrition?
So often, I mean, of course, the two spectrums are overeating and undereating.
Like, picky eating, I'm basically like they just stop eating something which they were
Yeah.
very fond of, or the fussy phases they kind of get into.
Yeah.
So
So, firstly, picky eating can sometimes be very normal.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're having a child who's going through development, and each stage of development is different. It's not like they're all going to go in a linear path. So, that's one thing. The issue arises when either they're doing one food group, so like they're only eating carbs, so they're only eating fruits, or they're only eating desserts, for example. The second thing is, are they eating at least 10 or more foods? If it's under 10 to 15, that's when it's a big red flag. The third is any colors that they're picking, like yellow or white, right? That's where you see that. A lot of times, stress shows up um, in the body, where the body also feels like the child is constantly nauseous. So you want to check in with them, have a body check. Where is it? Where is the energy not feeling good? Um, but I would also say that with not just picky eating, but with children in general, in terms of appetite, they should feel hungry as soon as they wake up. Like they should be asking for food, and they should be saying, no, I'm done. So it's not like they're just sitting and they're constantly eating and then they're getting up and they're getting more. So that intuition is something that you will, as a mom, also be able to notice.
and ideally, when does this what is the age limit that this behavior should set in, when they say that no, I'm done, or I'm hungry? When do they start identifying this?
This is as soon as you start solids,
Okay.
because kids are intuitive eaters from the get-go, and they all always know how much is enough and how much isn't. It's we're the ones who've given them a plate with portions.
Right.
So what I often tell people who come to me, especially with picky eating, is do a buffet. You're not cooking for a buffet, but you're basically just placing the food in front of them, and you're allowing them to take as much as they want.
Oh.
And then you can have a rule where you're like, even if it's a morsel, you try everything. So that way it builds confidence in themselves to know how much is enough.
Leila, have you had any kind of experiences where, parents come to you and say, my child is not eating their lunch boxes, or why at home they're eating, and why aren't they eating here? Or do you have any classroom observations to
Yeah,
share?
a lot, a lot. I have it daily. Like, why did my child end up in the whole day that he didn't touch his food? Why he's not eating? And this is like a very, very common question that I have it every day. So basically, what I did for my kids is I encourage them with points. Whoever like finish his food, he gets like a 5 points, and this 5 points, it's like we have the class dojo. So if he gets the highest point on his eating habits, or let's say his everyday habits, he gets like a small prize from me. This is where for me as a teacher, I try as much as I can to encourage. I don't want to know what's behind the reason. It doesn't, it's not always there's a reason behind why he's not eating. Maybe he's not hungry. Maybe he just want to be active now. Maybe he's just too excited to play. Maybe he's just too excited to learn. So maybe this is not the time that he wants to eat or finish his food. So it's fine. But for him, I gave him a challenge. If you finish your food and you finish all your lunchbox, you're gonna get your 5 points. And a lot of kids, to be honest, I get the same comments. I don't like this sandwich. My mom did it in a not nice way. I don't like this fruit. So what do I tell them? That when you go home, okay, uh, tell your mommy that you like this kind of, let's say, cheese and let's say Lebni, for example, in our Arab food diary. And like I tell them to give them two options. Usually I tell parents to give your kid two options for two healthy option, which is, let's say, for example, cheese and labne, and let him choose whatever he wants so he can have the appetite of eating rather than giving him every day the same thing that he doesn't like at all. I would rather that he eats half of his food rather than not eating at all.
I do have a say in this because I worked a lot very closely with our early years educator in helping Arjun eat things. But what we realized was that when she would sit with him, he would finish his his entire lunchbox.
Hmm.
But the day if she's not there in the class for whatever reason, or just the TA is there, or he, she thinks that, oh, he's going to do it now. Let's be more independent. He would just get back to where he was, the starting point. So what we realized was that the issue was a little bit more deeper than just sitting and eating food with him. And we realized that where it was stemming from, and we worked very closely with the educator as well to understand where his stress was stemming from and why empty lunch boxes were not coming home, like the entire full lunchbox as the way would come back home. And he needed more assurance than just the presence of the educator. So yeah, I mean, like, we did work a lot, but we realized that the ecosystem that we were putting him in needed more effort than what we were giving to him.
Definitely, definitely. I just want to add that I understand that usually mom they wake up so early, and especially now recently we buy the cutter and the way how it shows as a cat sandwich, and we buy the recently launched box and the recent water bottle. We work so hard in a way that when the mom when the child comes back at the end of the day and she sees that the food as it is, it didn't be touched, she feels frustrated, to be honest. I mean, she's waking up from the morning just to prepare this lunch for her. Yes, I understand her frustrated, but we need to understand also in the same time, kids are moody. I mean, they go for bad days and good days, and we need to understand them. We need to feel them. They are kids. They're too young. So let's not pressure them that you have to eat, you have to eat, you have to eat. And rather than pressuring them, encourage them. That's what we need to do.
We've kind of worked our way around it, like in our house. So um, every Sunday night, we make a menu, which is on the refrigerator, as to what she will take. There's a snack box and then there's a lunch box, and everything has options. And we kind of we have worked out a menu, and if she follows the menu through the week, and if she's eating that menu through the week, she gets 5 points, and those 5 points are added into, we have other point systems going on in the house, and into whatever she wants. So that has really helped me. It's a very recent thing because I was having serious lunchbox issues with my daughter. uh, we were having really weird lunch boxes, like Fruit Loops and cinnamon cereal and Frosties mixed together was her ideal lunchbox. So, like, this is panning out nice for now. So this is something that I'm doing that is kind of helping me out. I mean, a mom to mom, maybe it kind of helps anybody who's listening. So yeah, this is kind of helped me. Yeah. Anushka, do you think these kind of things help? or these kind of things are healthy?
Well, I'm not pro a reward system. I think you're on the right track in terms of the meal plan
Mhm.
because that creates predictability and children actually thrive in structure and predictability. So that's where like I would say that's a great tick for me.
For us, neither the meal plan worked, neither the reward system worked because he found a way around it. He was like, even if I don't finish my lunchbox and even if I don't get the 5 points, the system remains the same. So he found, figured out a way that reward system is something I don't agree with, like he doesn't agree with.
Yeah.
And if I say that, okay, I'm going to give the same food every day, and I tried the food bridge thing also, sometimes would just keep a cheese sandwich, entire thing would come back home
Yeah.
because my chicken nuggets were touching my cheese sandwich. So now both of them are touching. So I can't eat any of them. So I won't eat anything. And I come back.
Yeah.
And once he was back home, then he's in a safe space and he saw the familiar food is being created. He would eat that. We also tried the approach where I would involve him into making food. One day we tried this healthy banana oatmeal cake. And he saw that I'm putting banana with milk, which is two not so safe foods for him. And that's it. That was it. It was meltdown. And I literally had to tell them that don't worry, don't eat this cake. I'll eat it. I'll make myself healthy and I'll transfer my healthy energy to you. So that's how it ended up being there. But I think I agree with a lot of the stuff which you have said about meal plans and reward systems and not being pro rewards. And we have tried everything. I think we need to have a little bit more one-on-ones where we need to understand where it comes from and what's the next step for us.
I just wanna say something about what you said is when you try to create the food bridge and you send it to school, the environment is not safe enough. So the food bridge works better only at home. And that's something where I feel like a lot of people don't get that information clearly passed to them. Is the school is a different place. At school, there's a lot more stressors. There's safety only with, for example, the teacher or one child. But as an environment, there's so many lights, sounds. It's very stimulating. So food bridges don't work there. Over there, it's safe foods or nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's definitely a revelation to
Interesting.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is it's coming home and you're just being disappointed that this is the technique and it's not working at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember, seeing a lot of those bento boxes and all of those cutters. Oh my God. I used to get up at least half an hour earlier than my routine and I would cut beautiful, like sometimes stars and astronauts and planets. But it was like after a while, almost trying for 3 constant months,
Yeah.
I'm like, let's get back to the safe foods. At least you need something out of it.
Oh, well, wow. I think whatever works for, I think every mom, like every child, every mom and every parenting is different, right? That's what we can agree on here. Anyway, this brings us to the end of this segment. And thank you, ladies, for joining us in this. And we'll just take a break now and get diving into some more other aspect of parenting here. Thank you. That marks the end of segment 2. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next segment.